Hello there, welcome along. This is Business Connections Live. This is program number 22, another evening, another dollar. And thank you very much for joining us live here on the program. Great show, as I always say, a cracking program lined up for you. And boy, we've got some great business advice for you on the show tonight. This week's guests are Vanessa Green and Fiona Butler of Wigwam PR. Now, later on, we're going to be looking at some of their clients. We're going to be talking about some of the issues and the way that they've resolved the issues that some of their clients in the past have actually had. So it's going to be a good show, and I suggest that you stay with us. So Fiona and also Vanessa, they're the two. Now, what do you do when it comes to PR? You're thinking about it. Does your company do PR? Do you do the right thing? Or do you sit in your business bunker ignoring the outside world? Great product, but you're not telling anybody about it. You're keeping it a big secret. Keeping products a big secret or services a big secret is not the way to a successful business. That's why you need a good PR agency that'll go out there, promote your company. It'll tell the press. It's going to tell maybe your customers, and also tell your competitors as well. That'll get them frightened. Exactly what you're up to and what you're doing. It's an opportunity for you to actually promote your business and to promote your product or service, and hopefully increase sales. And at the end of the day, isn't that what we all want? An increase in sales. Let's kick off and say hello to the two ladies this evening. Vanessa, thank you very much for coming in.
Hello.
And Fiona, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Vanessa, what do you reckon is the biggest mistake that people make when it comes to PR?
I think the first mistake is not recognising where the story is. So we often have clients who come to us and tell us about great news. That might be internal news for their company. It might not be what the outside world wants to hear about. And when talking to them and hearing about their business, we suddenly find out all sorts of information that really does make good PR. So the first bit is identifying the right story, which is the most crucial part. Do
you think people are too inward-looking in their business? Because they're working with the problems or the excitement of what they're developing each and every day, that they sometimes forget what the relevance is to the outside world?
They can be, and another problem can be that they are waiting until the product is 100% perfect before they want to tell anybody about it. And in the meantime, somebody can come out with a similar product that isn't quite there yet or not as good as theirs, but they're talking to everyone about it and they're stealing the market. So it's about finding the right time. Obviously, you don't want to go out too early, but it really is important to have a voice out there.
Fiona Butler, what is it that you do within Wigwam?
Variety of aspects within Wigwam. So the main idea is that at Wigwam we are a senior team, so it's really key that we understand our client's business. So that's sort of where we start off, with a business knowledge and experience to really understand what needs to be done for them, and it's a bespoke programme for each client. It normally encompasses ranging from sort of writing to award entries to speaker opportunities. So there's a whole programme all put together, but the key thing is really understanding their business objectives and goals, where they want to go, and making a programme that suits that is realistic, on message, and making sure that everyone's behind it.
Now, from what I understand, and we're not here just to talk, it's very easy to make this nearly a blatant plug for Wigwam as an agency, but really what we want to do this evening is to give some takeaways to our viewers on how they should be approaching their PR for their business. Now, your agency, if you're choosing an agency, as a business owner, what should I be looking for when I come along? I mean, what are the key things that are important? I know from the profile of Wigwam that all the directors are you've got different skills in different market areas, and the combination of all those different skills means you're a full service agency. But what should I be looking for when I do go along to a PR agency, Vanessa?
I think Fiona and I have both worked in big London agencies and worked in PR consultancies for many years and seen it done in a number of different ways. And when we were setting up Wigwam, one of the things that we all felt passionate about was that we didn't want to have senior people meeting the clients and junior people selling in the stories, because that is often where communication can break down.
The big sell happens, and then what you get is you get a junior who's doing all the work afterwards, isn't it?
So the first and probably the most important thing is meet the team who will actually be doing your PR, and make sure that you speak to them about your business and that they grasp the concept of what your objectives are, what your business is about, which marketplace you're in, and that is really important. And I would also ask to see some results, because PR can be very difficult to measure, but it's really important that people aren't doing PR for the sake of PR, but they're actually looking at how the results can impact the business and the business development and growth.
It's interesting. I mean, looking back, I mean, we've had some of your particular clients who have come in and have been guests on the program. They've shared their business expertise with them. It must be quite tricky having the broad knowledge for you to understand what your clients are doing. I mean, if we look at just three of them, all very, very different. We had Gold Eye, Tom Higgins, he came in. So here we're looking at the stock market and software for the stock market industry. And then you look at the soundtrack to Your, which is an internet business which is dealing with the music industry effectively and putting the playlists of people together. And then you got Perfect Pitch who came in. We had Nigel on last week and we'll be looking at his program in just a moment. And they're actually, that's all about sales and telemarketing. Completely different businesses. So how do you actually understand them and get to the nitty-gritty? When do you know that what they're telling you is what you want to hear?
I think the first thing to say is that PR skills, there are certain techniques. So we know how to write a press release, we understand how to talk to journalists and what they may be looking for, where to go to look for speaker opportunities. And we've been in this business for many years, so we can do that very well. The exciting bit for us that is really interesting is getting to know different sectors and different businesses. How we're structured at Wigwam is Fiona and I look after the business-based clients. Annabelle works more with the consumer products and Tamsin works more on the art side, which means that we've still got areas of specialism, and within the business side we really help entrepreneurs to grow either their profile or the corporate profile, businesses of all sizes, and the key thing really for us is having access to the CEO or somebody in the senior team to explain to us and to trust us about where they're planning to go, what a realistic view about their company, and then we can take it from there, because not only are we doing PR but we are also business people ourselves, and that really makes a difference, and that's where the experience comes in that Fiona's already talked about.
I suppose it's a bit, if you think about maybe, you know, the TV programme Dragon's Den, they've got people coming in with a whole host and variety of products and offerings.
Many of them can't have a PR company because some of their presentation techniques are rubbish.
Yeah. But the dragons can understand and see what the business element is that they could get involved in. So they're looking at a whole variety, and I think that's what
I'd like to get Peter Jones in here. I can tell, if you know Peter Jones, let's get him on the show. I'd give him a piece of my mind. Is it about, one of the real skills is about the fact that the pair of you are very well connected outside of the agency, or even prior to Wigwam coming into formation. It's about your connections out there, that you can talk to the press, that you can talk to CEOs, that you're at that particular level within the industry.
Partly, and I think it's partly the confidence to be able to go in. I mean, take Tom Higgins' business, Gold Eye. It's very complex, and I have to say, when I first met him, I didn't understand the trading technology industry at all. It was completely new. But actually that was the interesting bit, to get to know it. And it's not a question of going too in depth really from the outset. What I needed to understand were who his clients were, what media titles those people are reading, where he needs to be placed, who his competitors are, where he stands in that kind of landscape, and then to start to get some very key messages out there and reiterate those messages in different ways. So, of course, I will never know and will never claim to know or try to know the extensive knowledge that Tom has about his business. I don't need to. What I need to do is to be able to go in from a top line point of view and be able to work out, actually, this is a really good story. I understand simply, in simple terms, what you're doing, and I can communicate that. So.
What do you think you're promoting? And we'll have a look at last week's program in just a moment, who are one of your clients. But what are you promoting as a PR agency, and what can businesses use when they're promoting themselves? Are you promoting the product, the brand, or are you promoting, I mean, in Tom's case, probably the product, the brand, and the personal persona and personality, I would imagine, because, I mean, that bloke is... I mean, he's big, brash and bold, isn't he? You know, glasses, great shirts, and he's just got a way about him. So what are you promoting? Is it all three or a combination?
I think it depends what each client needs. So again, it's a very bespoke service. So we will really look at what a client may need and also what the impact of that may be. So there is no point in just promoting a CEO or somebody senior in the organisation if they've got such a strong personality but they're not backing up that with any information about the brand, the products, because at the end of the day, PR is helping them to grow as a company and to sell their services and products.
All right then.
Sorry, I think as a rule of thumb, what you are looking for is what is the benefit to their customer. So with a lot of technology companies, how it all works is one aspect and might be of interest to an IT director, but actually for the business as a whole, what is the benefit of using their product or service? What is it going to make them be able to give their customers that they can't otherwise? And so sometimes we have to sit with people who are very excited about the technology and say, what we need is the business benefits here. What we don't need to know is from the bottom up how this actually works. What are the benefits that a customer can buy into here? How's it going to give them some business advantage? And really keep on that focus. We all buy products for a benefit. Let's look at the benefits.
It's all about selling the sizzle, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, I tell you what, we'll come back to Wigwam in just a few moments' time. While we're talking about what we will do, we'll look back at last week's programme. Fascinating programme. If you find that you don't have the time to get out there and do your own telemarketing, there are organisations, of course, that are spread across the country who will do the telemarketing for you. But how do you as a business prepare yourself to get ready to pass that very important part of your business over to a third party so that they can promote and to sell what you make or you produce? So we had with us last week, we had Perfect Pitch. Fantastic opportunity for you to find out what really goes on in the mind's eye of a company that does that kind of work for your business. And also they use a very unique idea because they use actors to do the cold calling. And of course they can then take on a persona themselves and they can really promote your product in the best possible light. Tell you what, let's look back at what happened on last week's edition of Business Connections Live. Now, this week's guests are Nigel Blake, he is the Managing Director of Perfect Pitch, and Paul Bryant, who works for Nigel. He's an actor, that's what it says on the script, but he does a lot more than that. He could, in fact, be representing your business. He could be drumming up the enthusiasm of potential customers for you.
So we're an outbound telemarketing agency, and as you rightly described, we get our clients in front of the people they wish to meet. But we took a slightly unique approach whereby we recruited actors to make those calls who are very well placed to do so. And that seems to set us apart and generate very good results. If you can imagine, they have ability to play a role, to empathise, to vary their voice tone. They have no fear of rejection and they remember their lines.
Confidence is a big thing. I think, naturally actors are confident to be able to talk, to just, be a character, When you pick up a phone, you can talk to somebody and immediately you know that you will have to be a certain type of character.
Do you sometimes find, Nigel, when people are talking to you, they think they can do the job themselves?
Yes, often, although I guess there's two categories of people. There are those that have tried it and really didn't like it, and those that mean to do it but never quite get round to it. And the latter's very typical, of course. I think typically when we're talking about profiling the clients they want to speak to, getting the right company in the right size, in the right industry, in the right location, we can buy that data off the shelf. It's pretty cheap, it's pretty reliable, and because of technology as it is in 2014, it's readily available to most businesses. What we would then typically give to Paul is, here's the company, here's the industry and so forth, here's the job title we're looking for, but you may need to do a bit of digging to find that right person. But fundamentally, and this applies to any aspect in life, be nice to people, say please, say thank you, recognise when it's appropriate, ask them nicely, and some people will respond to that. Not all, but it helps an awful lot if we can do that.
Obviously, let's say if we're calling on behalf of gym equipment, I'm not the guy that goes to the gym, believe it or not.
Hard to believe.
I don't know much about gym equipment, but I have my piece of paper in front of me. I have what I need to know, all right? I need to talk to this person, understand whether they are interested or not, work out, once they are interested, work out how I can help them, and then put them onto somebody who has the knowledge. And that's my job, really.
First and foremost, think about your message, think about what you want to get across, and be very clear who you want to get that message across to, be it a certain type of business, an industry, a size of business, maybe a certain geography, and be sure you have all the tools in place. You're going to get increased traffic to your website, marketing material. What about if you're very successful and you book lots of meetings? Who's going to go on those meetings? So preparation, and if you do it yourself, it's not personal. Listen more than you talk and think about who you're talking to.
Give options and be personable as well. Be nice.
That's as simple as that. Just be nice. That's what it's all about. This week's guests are Vanessa Green and Fiona Butler of Wigwam PR. We're talking about what you could do as a business, a small business, to go out there and to raise your awareness, let people know what you're doing. You were talking just before we actually had a look at Perfect Pitch. Great company, by the way. Nice guys. Nigel, lovely bloke, and the pair of them that came in the evening, Paul, just fabulous. You were saying that you ask them what the benefits are.
Mm-hmm.
Do you sometimes find that businesses really do lose sight of what the key benefits are?
They do.
And they sell on features sometimes.
Yeah, and also a lot of their money is going into their R&D. So a lot of their focus is where their main cost base is. But actually what we need to do is, yes, that is a massive part of your business, but what we need to promote is the why you've done that. What is the benefit for the effort and the money that's gone into that side of it?
Are there any tips that you would give to businesses when it comes to, should they sit down with a piece of paper and then write out a list of the benefits of what their business or their company is all about? And the difficulty, I think, sometimes is identifying in their mind's eye what a benefit is. It's a bit like saying, this computer's got 4 gig of memory and it's got a 250 megabit thingamajiggy. And in fact, the memory will make it go faster, the hard drive will allow you to store more information, and they just get a little bit lost between benefits and features.
Sorry, I was just going to say, the best clients are ones who've actually researched their market, that have actually got some hard evidence that the product or the service that they're developing, they've established a need for it in reality, not just their hunch. So when we work with clients that have done research, fantastic, and we've got some nice hooks to put a PR story onto. And I'd always say if people have a very limited amount of money to be able to promote themselves, research is a really good way to be able to get yourself some headlines. Take a niche area within your own business, look at doing some research. There's a variety of cost-effective options, and there's obviously a lot of more expensive, specialists that you can go to, but that really gives you a hook that proves the business need, that looks very much at what you're doing as a business and relates it back to a sort of identified need and requirement.
How often then do you get people coming in who go, I've got the most wonderful mousetrap in the whole world, doing no research but so believe in their product or service that they just won't be told? Do you get people that do that to you when they come in?
Yes, you do get people, and the enthusiasm is to be encouraged, because if the individual isn't enthusiastic about their business, then how can we get enthusiastic, and how can the press, and through the press or the media, their end user? So enthusiasm's great. Misguided enthusiasm is quite difficult to deal with, and sometimes you'd have to say to someone, well, actually there's already many other products in that area on the market. We've looked at them and some of them are offering additional functionality. So your story is limited here in terms of what we can get out there about your product that doesn't have as much functionality as others that that are already a success.
I think it comes on to finding something different about your business. So in addition to looking at the features, what's unusual about your company? So in Nigel's case, using actors for cold calls, that's interesting, and that's what people will want to hear about.
Does that then sort of dictate the way you actually promote it and the different places that you go with it?
Definitely.
So would it be different press then that you would use, or is it the same press? Because surely you want it to get to the business community though.
Yes, I think what we need to do first of all is find out which press to target, so where their audience is. So for Nigel, he started off wanting very local coverage, and that's a really nice local story, an innovative local business. For the Gold Eye business, for example, we were looking at the retail broker media. There was no point in getting him a story in the Times when he's got a global audience that won't be reading the Times, and it's lovely for him to see himself in the Times.
And there is sometimes this vanity element, isn't there?
Definitely.
Because I mean, when I worked in marketing 1,000 years ago in another lifetime, what we were actually seeing there was that the managing director or the CEO of the organisation would love to see his name in the Times, but it would actually have no benefit. In fact, what they would do, this particular company, they would put their page advertising in the Times for what was not a consumer-ended product. And they felt it was raising profile. I mean, does that sometimes work?
I think, and especially budgets are tight these days, so you've got to make the money work really hard. So be very focused and targeted. And it's amazing, really. We've had stories which have been in the Surrey Advertiser and the Financial Times, and we've had more impact and more results from the Surrey Advertiser, although, like you say, the vanity was, wow, you've been in the FT. And I think that's one thing that we're very good at looking at is, where do you actually want the results? Because it's easy just to go and get reams of coverage. What you really want to focus is the impact on the business.
Sorry.
And it's really understanding what your client's objectives are. So if it is an organisation that might be having to make some redundancies and staff morale is a big issue for them, then actually you might want a story in a very well read publication that their employees might be reading to give that boost, to be able to talk about where the company's direction's going, to give a bit of positivity. So it is really making sure that the target media is appropriate to the business objectives.
And that evolves over a period of time, so you can start off with a focus just on the local media, get bigger, you've got a bit more to say, you could be looking at some very specialist trade media, and in time move on to the national press. You know, the national media is fantastic exposure, but it's got to be right for the right business at the right time.
Yeah.
What about expectations when people come to talk to a PR agency? Do they get it right or do they get it wrong? Have they got it in their head exactly what you do? It's a bit like people getting mixed up between marketing and sales. One of them is taking the horse to water and the other one is making them drink. Do they come to you with maybe a misconceived idea of what PR can actually achieve for them?
I think there's a real variety there. You might have an individual who's worked at a corporate who've been spending hundreds of thousands a year on PR, and that person now has set up their own business. So their experience of PR is the very large budgets. Their perception is that it's a very easy opportunity to get into a variety of titles. Well, if a company's been going for many years, has a very strong brand and has a very strong story, then of course opportunities will open up. But the majority of people, I think, have a quite realistic idea about the fact of, when we really talk to them about the business, what is it that you need from PR that's going to support your business objectives? And I think that's what you get with Wigwam PR, is a real pulling it back to supporting the business, rather than just saying, actually, we could get some easy hits here, or this would be quite straightforward to do. If it ultimately doesn't impact and have a beneficial impact on your business, really, why are you doing it? Yeah, yeah.
And is that how you feel about it too? I mean, do you see clients coming to you that are completely misinformed about what they think they're going to get from PR?
They can be, and I think the most important thing really is that we look at PR as a whole part of their marketing. So if they are using advertising agencies or they're doing advertising themselves, that we really, or social media, that we integrate the whole thing together to really get more value for them. There's no point in having PR campaign giving out certain messages and you can see an ad that says something completely different. So we really have to look at the business as a whole, how they're marketing as a whole, and how PR fits into that.
Has the whole industry then for PR, has it changed over the last 5 years? You were talking there about social media. Interestingly, last week in the news they were talking about Twitter, and they were saying that there's actually been a huge drop, 25% I think, in the share price of Twitter, because not as many people are using it as they were last year, which when you think about it, I think of Twitter as something that is still growing and expanding, and already people are beginning to say that, has it peaked and is it dropping off?
Well, it's interesting from the PR point of view, because a few years ago it was like the Emperor's new clothes. Everyone would come and speak to us and say, oh, while you're doing our PR, could you do some social media? And we would always say,
just do some social media.
No, we won't. We will focus on the traditional media. And we sounded like dinosaurs, you know. It's like, but this is the new thing. And we did stick with it, and sometimes we partnered with social media companies because they were the experts in that field, but we would never lose our PR budget to social media because we needed the focus for the traditional media. And now it's taken a couple of years, but we're meeting a number of companies who are saying, it's great to have social media, but
Well, I was just about
hasn't
to ask
really
you,
got done
is social
anything for the
media
business.
to a business important?
I think LinkedIn is very important, but from what we've seen in the business-to-business area, a lot of clients have spent quite a lot of time and money on social media that hasn't brought them benefits, whereas they can see much more clearly benefits of traditional media. And you know, it depends which audience you're reaching. I know the younger audiences are on social media, and it is very strong, but for the majority of our clients, the businesses that we meet, a real focus on the traditional side. It really does seem to be going back towards that. Social media is
Really?
another channel. It is another channel, and it's a channel that needs addressing, but PR can have much more impact than the social media.
And with clients that are meeting with investors, so looking for an eye for 2 to 3 years' time, wanting to be bought out, the actual physical coverage, publications that have written about them, respected journalists that have understood their concept and endorsed it is really important for that journey, whereas the social media, it's got a very short shelf life and it doesn't provide them with the material that they maybe need further down the line when they're looking for investment.
It's interesting, when you look at the likes of Twitter, you send a message out and it is pretty instant,
Yes,
isn't it?
yeah.
It's there and you can miss it, particularly if you're broadcasting it and it's in this consciousness stream of other stuff.
Yeah.
It get very easily lost. I see what you're saying about LinkedIn, and interestingly, one of the programs that we did about LinkedIn with a guy called Steve Mills, one of the most popular programs that we actually did. And the power, I think, of social media sites like LinkedIn, I think is absolutely enormous.
Yes.
But it's fascinating that maybe Twitter isn't the right place. What about the
I think we're very much talking on the business-to-business PR side of things.
What
so-
about Facebook and businesses that use Facebook? Am I treading on dangerous ground here?
Well, I think businesses that use Facebook, they need to be talking to a slightly different audience. So if you're looking for maybe a younger demographic, the under 35s, then there is a place on Facebook. I think, again, the issue is the ownership of that within an organisation. I think all too often organisations leave that to someone quite junior to make judgment calls on what they put out onto Facebook on behalf of the company.
Right, yes, this is going back though.
Yeah.
This is the other side, isn't
Yeah.
it, of senior person setting it up,
Yes.
junior person
Yeah.
actually
Exactly.
carrying out the work, isn't it?
And I think
Chiefs and Indians.
Absolutely, and across the board on your communications, PR is sort of the cornerstone where the messaging is developed, the strategy is developed, and I think it is just that judgment call on any communication, on any channel that goes out. It needs to be consistent with the core objectives of the business.
Looking at the whole PR market that is out there at the moment, we've talked there about social media. When it comes to the written press, though, is that still got its edge when it comes to getting your I mean, is that the big deal?
Yes.
You want
Yeah.
your PR releases and you want them to be read in your industry press. Is that what you're after?
On the industry press and online as well. I mean, it's a huge benefit to be able to get a story online because people will Google search that company later on and all the information's there.
And Google
so
loves video. I was going to lead
Yes,
on to that
Google
actually
does
and ask
love
you about
video.
that. But, I
Yeah.
mean, are you beginning to see now the power of video? Particularly, are you getting your clients saying, we want more video presence? Are you beginning to see that?
Absolutely,
Definitely.
and a variety of content in a variety of formats, and see the real power as well. And from, I was saying earlier, from the internal viewpoint, seeing your CEO or your marketing director speaking about the company in depth with a real idea of where that company's going, what journey they're on, is really interesting to employees. And that really comes across when you see the essence of someone when they're videoed.
I mean, it's a real hobby horse of mine because I think 2, 3, maybe 5 years ago when YouTube started, and we're talking right now, even while we're doing this programme, there are thousands of hours of video footage being put up there, but a lot of it isn't very good.
Yes.
And people are now talking about it's YouTube video 2.0. We've moved on
Yeah.
from 1.0, and we're now looking for proper content. We're actually looking for better quality. It isn't just good enough to have something up there with bad audio, badly lit. It's actually got to look like
Yes.
real television,
Yeah,
hasn't it?
absolutely.
And what kind of advice then do you give to your clients?
When we first will start working with a client, we'll look at their media training. I think that's sort of, we need to take it right back to the first base for them. So we might have people who are very confident, but actually being able to capture their story concisely and being able to get it across appropriate to the audience is a challenge. That they may have a background in technology and delve too far down that route. So we start with looking at their media training needs, and there we might have a host of looking at an interview on the telephone or looking at a video interview. So it's really important to start with our clients and making them prepared for all eventualities, that they understand the different techniques they need to present, you know, based on what the variety of media is.
I think getting CEOs and getting people who are media facing some media training is very, very important, because let's face it, the people that are doing the interviewing are professionals.
Yes.
They know how to ask a question, and they know how to direct a question as well, to make certain that they get the answer that they're looking for.
Yes.
And I think people have got to be aware of that, haven't they?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Awareness and building profile, other hits can really have a direct impact. We worked for a Bollywood dance fitness company called Just Joom,
I could
and
see
that was
you
good
doing
fun.
that, actually.
That was very good fun.
The pair of you doing that.
I still do Just Joom, actually. And we were able to secure an interview with the owner and to get Denise Van Outen to try out Just Joom. Well, as a result of the feature that went out on Daybreak, Just Joom was contacted by some national fitness chains, and then they went into discussion about rolling Just Joom out across the country. So there are hits that really have a huge impact, and generally the reality is the sustained awareness of mentioning a business and its products a number of times really can help a business to grow.
Are you guys the hidden heroes then? Are you in the front line actually getting out there, but no one knows your name? Is that what it's all about?
We tend to stay behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very rare for us to do any of our own PR. We just really enjoy learning about other people's businesses and helping to promote them, and we know that we've got skills that can help them, and whether that is working with their in-house marketing team or becoming their in-house marketing team, you know, they will outsource to us, and many of the companies we work with don't have anybody who does marketing themselves. We just feel part of our client's business.
Should a company step back sometime? I mean, just no matter what size they are, is it something they should be considering? I mean, I suppose really tell us a little bit of the story, the background to Soundtrack to Your, because here you've got a web-based business that is embryonic. It's starting to grow. It's getting to the stage where it's going to be doing crowdfunding and things like that, and it's about to explode onto the market. I mean, this really could be an absolutely huge company. I mean, they're big now, but it really could expand and go places.
Absolutely.
So, dealing with the company, what are the problems of dealing with an organisation or a company like that?
Well, I think dealing with a virtual company is the first aspect. So you don't have something to touch and feel. You've got a website and a great concept that you need to communicate and need to get that story out there. And you've got quite a savvy audience. People are quite used. I think on the online side of it, music is much more established and much more accepted than a lot of services that you interact with online. So the first thing was really getting some credibility for Soundtrack and their approach. So we went in to meet with the editors of Music Week, you know, made sure that they understood, but at that stage got a lot of feedback from them.
You see, that would have been a very difficult concept to get over, because people would have said, well, it's another Spotify, surely, isn't it?
Well, I think the whole aspect is that we all have a load of music in our lives, and it's almost a footprint for who we are. So years ago, you'd go around to someone's for dinner, and whilst you're having a drink, you might look at their CD collection, and you'd get more about who that person was from scrolling through their CD collection than perhaps you would from the first few meetings.
You're really good, aren't you? The footprint to their life. I like that phrase. That is good. Write that down, footprint to your life. I'll tell you what, let's just remind ourselves a little bit about Soundtrack to Your. They came in on the programme, they were on programme 17. If you want to check out the entire show, fascinating. We talk about everything from crowdfunding all the way through to the concept of starting up and being your own boss, having a business and being your own boss effectively. Here's a group of people that got together, they self-funded it, they were techie background to it, but they were able to get a site up that was actually doing it, and now they're in a position where they are crowdfunding and they are getting bigger and bigger, and they will be taking on the big boys with this. I think there's without any hesitation of doubt. So let's go back then to programme 17 and check out Soundtrack to Your. My guest this evening is Phil Smith from Soundtrack to Your. .com. Yes, I know it sounds like it's a name that isn't quite finished, but what they're saying is it's a soundtrack to your, well, everything, to your life. It can be to your life, to your marriage, to your work day. It's all there. You fill in the gap where you think another word should be. Soundtrack to your.com.
It's really how we use and consume music in our lives, really. It's the fact that we all have great music that sort of we like to run to, or we like to listen to when we're on the bus going to work, or, you know, we reminds us of our holidays, reminds us of lovers, future and past. It reminds us of the stuff that we had at our wedding, first record we bought. And we thought, well, if you had a record shop where you chopped all this up into these categories, into these new genres of the way that we use music, it's immeasurably much more interesting and useful for people like you or I or anybody else to actually go and find new music to listen to. And it's all about that, crowdsourcing musical taste.
The music that is on the website, who does it belong to? Whose is it? Is it mine? Is it yours? It obviously still belongs to the publisher of the piece of music in some way or another. So who does it belong to? For instance, I went to the site, I'm not a member of the site today. I went on there and I was listening to Aerosmith. And I thought, well, who does that belong to?
Well, the way it actually works at the moment is that it is a completely legal service. Completely legal. And what we actually do is we use pre-licensed libraries of music, both from YouTube and another provider called SoundCloud. That's the way that you get to hear all the music that you actually want to listen to through the site. So it's pre-licensed by YouTube and it's pre-licensed by SoundCloud. Well, the money that we originally raised has taken us to this point and will certainly sustain us for the next 3 to 6 months. So that's not really an issue. Over that next 3 to 6 months, the issue is then to raise the next fund of actual, which would be your first proper fund of round of funding, beg your pardon.
And you're going to be doing crowdfunding,
We're
aren't
doing
you?
this with a site called ShareIn at the moment, sharein.com. And they're a brand new crowdfunding platform. Fantastic people based in Scotland. And we are launching with them, and they go live to super launch in a few weeks' time. So in a few weeks' time, anybody and everybody will be able to have an opportunity of owning a piece of Soundtrack to Your, one which I strongly urge people to take up.
So how do you drive audience? How do you get people
It's not the
there?
snappiest. Well, the simple truth is actually it's by what it is. It's not essentially going to catch anybody who say is interested in just joining a music service like Google Play or Spotify, one of those. But what it is going to interest people is going, do you know, I'm going to start running this year because obviously that's what I need to do. What music should I listen to? Talk to your friends about it, find stuff out. It's people who are interested in music for specific things you will find with us.
Who are your mentors?
The ones that we've used have been terrific, really. We've got a great group of people. We have 3 or 4 people who are on our board one or two have done internet businesses of their own. One guy did an amazing motorbike business online, made a fortune and sold it. We've got people from the city, we've got people from legal, we've got people from marketing who are all actually sitting with us and have been giving us the most awesome advice. And to be honest with you, if that's one of the things you really ought to consider, is the quality of your business is probably at the beginning is predicated upon the quality of the professional advice and skills and enthusiasms those people can bring to the party, and we've been blessed. I'm Phil Smith, soundtracktoyour.com, and if I was as truthful as I can be, the things I would absolutely tell you to do about setting up your own business is, more than anything else, believe in your idea. Hone that idea until that idea isn't an idea, it's your idea. That's what it's got to be. And then you've got to drive it, you've got to find the right people and work as hard as you can. It's never going to be easy, but it's a heck of a lot of fun.
But they're really
So that's
passionate about
Phil
this.
Smith to your soundtrack.com. I always felt that it needed one extra word in there, actually. You always felt like you were halfway through a sentence. You know, you put it into your word processing and it goes, are you certain there isn't another word on there? But a fantastic show. And if you want to find out about crowdfunding as well, we talk a little bit about that on the programme, and also the benefits that Her Majesty's revenue will actually give you as well. If you want to go to their website, you can just see it here. It is soundtracktoyour.com. If you want to check out our website, if you want to see any of the past programmes, simply just go to the website that's on the screen right now. It is www.businessconnectionslive.com. And you can also contact us as well, studio@businessconnectionslive.com. That's our email address. They're all working well today. If you are watching us there, sign up. We've got a free guide on how you can maximize your return on video production on your website. 14 great simple techniques that you can use to make certain that your YouTube videos are having an impact out there. It's absolutely free. Just simply sign up for that and we'll send it to you. And just some of the simplest things that you can do to your YouTube videos, and all of a sudden you can start to see real hits and real returns on it. It's as simple and straightforward as that. So that's at www.businessconnectionslive.com. Sign up for our YouTube guide. And if you are watching this on YouTube, so many things you've got to do. It's like homework, isn't it? I'd like you to subscribe to the channel because that's important to us as well, and it helps us maintain the program and to keep bringing it to you each and every week. This week's guests are Vanessa Green and Fiona Butler of Wigwam PR. If you've been thinking about having PR in the past and you've been thinking, it's not really worth it, is it, quite frankly? I can tell you right now it is. It's going to change the way people perceive your organisation, your business, and it could increase your sales. Is that over-promising?
No, I think it can. It's got to be done in the right way. So, for example, one thing that we were talking about earlier is about even the written material that goes out. So many people might say, oh, well, I wrote a press release, I sent it to the local paper, nothing happened. And I guess the first things we'll always say is, can we see the press release? More often than not, the story...
Do you take it away and have a quiet laugh in the
well,
corner?
No, we don't at all. But what happens quite often is they put loads of information about the company.
You're saying what? Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So they put lots of information about the company at the beginning, and the story is buried down at the bottom. And that's often just a very simple thing that, a common mistake that we often see. And when they'll send it off to the local newspaper, they won't phone and speak to the journalist. It goes into a black hole and they sit there waiting for the coverage to come out. Even if you're wanting just to do a very low level of PR, the important thing is make sure it's well written for the press release.
All right, so these are the tips then. These are absolute solid tips. If you are thinking of putting together a press release and you haven't yet gone to a fine PR agency like Wigwam, here's how you put together a press release that somebody might read, because that's the other thing about all of this, isn't there? There is none of it for certain, is there?
No, and when we meet journalists, they'll often say they get thousands of stories sent to them every day and they have to select. So often they will only read the first paragraph. They won't get further down the story unless it really interests them. So make sure that the newsworthy bit is at the start.
So when you say the newsworthy bit, if I'm sort of selling widgets, or I've just manufactured a brand new widget, is that what I lead with? Brand new widget will change your life, and the first paragraph is brand new widget will change your life by doing this, this and this, some of the benefits. And then the next bit, a little bit more detail about the widget and a bit about the company and then a bit about the company. Is it that kind of
order? We would never say we'll change your life. I think the other thing about PR is people often say, oh, it's all hype, isn't it? And what you've got to do is be very realistic. So you can never say that your product is the best product ever. That's not the fact. Hopefully people will come to believe that your product is, but never put that in the story.
Can you imply it though? Can you, are there words that you use that evoke an emotion that will make them feel that way?
And especially in the quote. So we'll always put a quote in the press release from the CEO or the MD. So if you could say, we've been assessing the market for years, we believe this will lead the market or take the market by storm, because then you are implying it. But I'd just be very careful. Don't overpromise things in the press release or state things that are clearly not true.
You've got to be so careful, haven't you? Because once it's written and printed and published, you could be in serious trouble. Would you agree with that?
Also, you're misleading your audience then as well.
And you've got to be very careful. Would you agree with that?
I
or is
would.
there anything else you'd add?
There's language. There's a certain language that you use in a press release. So, you can talk about innovation and expertise. You want to talk in a very positive light about whatever your product or is, but you don't want to say that it's unique and it's groundbreaking, because actually what the journalist wants to read is a measured analysis of what you've got, and then what you're hoping is that they might pick up the phone and speak to your PR company or to yourself to get more information. So what you're giving them is an honest, upbeat, So putting all your positives there, appraisal of what you've got to spur their interest and hopefully get them to look at it.
What about organisations that go into the world of mnemonics and abbreviations and this, that, and the other?
Yeah.
Is that death to a press release?
It is.
You're wrinkling up a nose in a kind of a cute way there, but really it is it? You shouldn't.
Yes,
be,
and that comes back to often companies are so used to using those, they forget that they actually relate to real words, and so they will put in their press release and their information all sorts of acronyms. People don't understand that, and so it really is. Imagine that you're selling to somebody who knows nothing about your organisation. Don't assume that they've read the previous press release which explained it all, that came out 3 weeks ago. You've really got to keep reiterating very simple messages and sell almost in a kind of indirect way. It's not a hard sell, it's about awareness building and making something seem exciting, credible.
I like the whole idea of the fact that the press release that you're doing is actually going to be more of a soft sell. What about the style of writing when people are putting these together? It's quite interesting. If you do quite a lot of work when you're doing SEOing of websites, some of the SEO plugins that you get for some of the websites, they will analyse the way you have written. And is it Kirsch? Is it the Kirsch measurement or whatever, and it says this is sitting at 50%, which is perceived as being hard to read. So do you write in a simpler way? They were saying in the press, long question, short answer, but they were well, actually a long answer if you want. They were saying in the press last week that the average reading age in this country is 11 years old. So what, I mean, so how do you write it? What are the styles
you write
that you
in
use?
A concise manner. So what you're looking to do is to strip it back to where you've got total clarity and you haven't got words in there that are unnecessary. So what you're not trying to do is very long sentences linking, short sentences, clear words, not using jargon. And when I do media training, I try and explain to the client, a journalist now, teams on newspapers and on magazines have stripped right down from say 6-7 years ago. So you've got one journalist that's being asked to cover a whole variety of subject areas. They won't understand your industry's jargon, so everything needs to be explained clearly. And don't, when you're writing a press release, assume a level of knowledge from the reader. You must assume that it needs to be read and understood by anyone. So you need to strip it right back, short sentences that are concise and to the point, not fluffy, not adding imagery. You wouldn't put a simile into a press release. You keep it to the facts and you keep it clear. The bit where you can have a little bit more license is the quote, where you can say, I think, or my, you can add a little bit more flowery language in the quote, but the rest of it, short sentences and concise.
I mean, this information, for a lot of people, it's going to be a revelation, isn't it? They're going to be sitting there going, that's not the way I'm doing my press releases. When it comes to distributing their press releases and getting them out to the press, it's dead easy to get, shall we say, a local newspaper's address. But say you want to get out to your industry press and you just want a general kind of getting it out there. What do you do apart from go to your good selves at Wigwam? But what can a small to medium scale business do who maybe is strapped cashed at the moment? They don't have the budget to have an independent PR company, but they do want to put together a PR mailing list. What can they do?
Well, I think what they need to do first of all is read the publication that they're wanting to target. So if they maybe don't have the budget to subscribe to a lot of publications, many of the can be quite expensive, so they could phone up and say they're thinking of advertising. That way they'll get sent a media pack which will have one copy of the magazine in it, and then they might think, actually this is really appropriate for me, and subscribe. And as you're reading that magazine, you want to look for the journalist who's writing in your area or has written something similar to what you have an interest in, so that when your press release comes you can actually phone that journalist up, and they love it if you can say, I read last week's issue that you wrote about X, Y and Z. I actually run my own business and I've put together a press release. Is it okay if I send it through to you? A little bit of information about it, but to make a connection, make some way of getting in and showing that you have some knowledge of that journalist and of their publication.
I mean, we always say one thing that's really important is to pick up the phone and speak to the journalist, because even if you look online at the website and it says contact here, journalists move around an awful lot. Quite often the information isn't correct on the website. So in the first instance, if you've gone to the trouble of writing a nice press release, you want to make sure it's seen by the right person. So you can call them up, even call the receptionist and say, who's the person that currently writes about this for your magazine, and get their contact details. Then you can send it out to them. It's all too easy just to send everything by email and think, I've done it.
I've done it.
Yeah.
And lots of publications will have an email news at or info at, and people think, so you might get directed to that, or people think that's the website. Well, at the other end of that website can be quite a junior member of the team or an intern who's been tasked with going through this huge inbox. So are you going to leave it to luck? Are you going to leave it to that it might or might not get opened, or actually have a named contact that you have spoken to, and when that email arrives there's some connection with your company's name, that they've already had a conversation, and they're much more likely to open it and give it the first paragraph test to see whether it's something of interest to them.
And maybe spend a little time on the headline as
Definitely
well.
on the headline, yeah.
What I'm going to ask you both to do is going to be straight down the camera very shortly, where you can give that key advice. We're nearly at the end of the show, it's whistled by.
Yes.
That key advice to people who are thinking about using a PR company or want to do some press and PR themselves. So that's what I'm going to be asking you to do in just a few moments, if that's okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much indeed. But what we are going to do is we're going to catch up on this week's news, and looking back over the last 7 days, here's Linda Bazant.
This is Business Connections Live with the business news for the 12th of February 2014. The UK economy will grow by 2.5% this year and 2.1% in 2015, the National Institute of Social and Economic Research has forecast. The estimates are broadly in line with those of other forecasters, including the UK's Office for Budget Responsibility. NIESR also said it expected the unemployment rate to fall below 7% before the end of the year. The Bank of England has confirmed it will hold the base rate at the historic low level of 0.5%. The rate has now remained unchanged since 2009. As unemployment continues to fall towards the 7% level, the bank and Governor Mark Carney have been forced to stress there is no rush for a rate rise. Derby-based train maker Bombardier has been awarded a £1 billion contract to supply trains to the London Crossrail project. It has been confirmed. Bombardier beat out opposition from Japan's Hitachi and Spanish firm CAF to land the contract. The deal will involve making 65 complete trains and support an estimated 760 jobs in Britain. It will create 244 new jobs and 80 apprenticeships. Business Secretary Vince Cable said, as well as providing a great boost to Bombardier and the Midlands, this decision represents a real vote of confidence in British manufacturing. Our industrial strategy is giving business the confidence to invest, securing high-skilled jobs and a stronger economy. More than 3,000 people who were subject to the government's cap on welfare payments have now found work, according to new figures. The Department for Work and Pensions said 8,040 households had come off the cap by the end of the year. The government said it showed the policy was already making an impact. The figures show that 40% of those coming off the cap have found employment. Lord Freud, the Minister for Welfare Reform, said it is encouraging to see that people who have been subject to the cap are moving into work so soon after national implementation was complete. And if you have any comments or views on these or any other stories, please contact us on all social media or email studio@businessconnectionslive.com.
You're watching Business Connections Live. It is programme number 22. Steve Hyler with you here. We're nearly at the end, actually, of this particular edition. And my guests this evening are from Wigwam PR, Vanessa Green and Fiona Butler. We really are nearly at the end, and I don't know how you feel about it, but for me, it's been a real insight into the whole world of PR. I think sometimes people will look at PR agencies and think that really it's all about lunch accounts and being taken out. And really you are an integral part of business life these days. And if it's not used properly like any tool, then you're not going to get the benefits from it. What I was going to say is, it's that advice, that key advice that is the bit of a takeaway at the end of the programme. So if we kick off with you first of all, Vanessa. Now I'm going to ask my director tonight to make certain that I know which camera Vanessa is actually going to be looking down. Is it number 4? Look down number 4 for me, please.
Okay.
That'll be the one then. It's all going smoothly then. So Vanessa then, just you know, the key advice that people should remember when it comes to PR, and if you repeat the same thing, then so be it, because I would imagine that the advice would be very similar. But Vanessa, take it away.
I would say make sure you know the reasons for doing PR. What do you want to get out of it? What messages do you want to convey? And who do you want to get those messages to?
Simple and straightforward as that.
Simple and straightforward.
Crikey. Well, in that case, then you're going to be straight down number 3, I would
Number
imagine.
3,
So
okay.
you get a bigger, more expensive camera.
Oh.
So then straight down number 3
Fantastic.
then, and this is Fiona Butler.
I'd say that PR can help you really understand your messaging and how you sit against your competitors. So if you do go down the route of meeting with a PR company, make sure that you feel slightly interrogated by that company. They should know all about you, really understand what your ambitions are and help you hone your messaging. If you're doing PR yourself, make sure you really understand the process of writing a press release, understand what a key message is, and don't be afraid to use it. It's really important that the wider world knows about what you're doing as an organisation, and therefore the sales will hopefully follow.
Fantastic. Well, listen, it's been a fantastic hour. Thank you very much indeed
Thank you.
Thank you
for
for
being
having
part of
us.
Business Connections Live. Thank you very much as well for all the clients that you've sent in. We've got Soundtrack to Your. They're sitting here on my PC at the moment. We'll have a quick gander at them. There they are. There's a Soundtrack, and we've got Perfect Pitch, who were in last week, and of course they've got Gold Eye with Tom Higgins. Absolutely brilliant. So that pretty much wraps up the program. Thank you very much
Thank
indeed for
you.
joining us today. Thank you very much as well for joining us on this edition of Business Connections Live. We're back again live next week with another guest. In fact, I've probably got that written down here somewhere. Have I? I'll just find out. Don't you worry. I'll find it. There it is there. Next week's show, it's going to be Jim McLaughlin, MD of, I think it's Axel, on lead generation, market research, database services, and a whole load more. But from me, Steve Holland, and the rest of the team, don't forget, if you are watching this on YouTube, do subscribe and don't miss out. Go to businessconnectionslive.com to get your free guide on how you can maximise the return on your website. There it is, www.businessconnectionslive.com. It's as simple and as straightforward as that. From all the team here, as always, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, there's a live programme every Wednesday night. We look forward to your company next week, live at 6. Till then, bye for now. Bye-bye.